Okay.
Check. There you go. Okay. Well, hello, Robert. Good to see you again. You said you had some questions.
I do. I will ask away. Okay. So the first question is fully feeling um, unwholesome emotions versus just replacing them with wholesome thoughts and emotions or sensations. It doesn't just have to be emotions.
Well, we need to make a distinction between thoughts and emotions. That in fact, the word emotion has the word motion in it. That the unwholesome was pulling the trigger. Emotion is the bullet.
Okay. Right, right. Okay. I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. Yeah, that makes sense. It's the cause and the effect.
Right. That anything that happens had a cause. Every fire has a fuel. So that means that every bad feeling that you have uh, was fired off. You can think of bad feelings in the sense of stored up ammunition. And stored up ammunition, I mean, ammunition will sit for years and years or not being used, and then somebody gets jerked off and loads the gun and pulls the trigger, and now the bullet's active. So that's what emotions are. Emotions are the results of, um, let us say, most specifically in Paticca Samuppada, feelings and emotions are caused by contact. Something has contacted us. Okay, the guy
Mm,
who
mm.
pulled the trigger
Right,
because he
right.
was
Yeah.
contacted. He was
That's
contacted
the
with something.
event in the environment. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No,
Oh, no.
almost never it comes from the environment.
Oh, it's from the mind.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Got you.
So an
Got you.
unwholesome thought, a memory comes up, and that unwholesome thought then brings on unwholesome feelings. That the mind and the body are deeply interconnected.
I
And
see. I see.
between the body and the mind are the feelings. So body controls or influences or conditions the feelings, and the feelings condition the mind, and the mind condition the feelings, and the feelings condition the body. And so it's kind of a circle like that. You can put them on a one at 12 and one at 4 and one at 8 o'clock, and you can see that they
Yes. Yeah. So it just goes around like, and
right.
then the body feelings, those condition the mind as well. It reacts back against those, sort of like a feedback loop.
Yeah. Easy
Yeah.
examples of that is that you feel sick, and when you feel sick or your body is sick, you're grumpy.
Mm. Mm. Yeah.
And because
Yeah.
right. And because you're grumpy, you yell at somebody or you yell at somebody in your mind. So there's the body being sick will condition the feelings to be grumpy, and the grumpy then conditions the mind to continue with the grumpy thoughts or thoughts of panic, thoughts of all kinds of stuff. But body, feeling, and mind are interrelated. And that is most specifically laid out uh, in the teachings of the Paticca Samuppada, but also steps 7 and 8 um, in Anapanasati talk about the mental conditioners, that it's the feelings that condition the mind. And many, many examples of that. Um, they're in debates, they call it a ad hominem attack. You're not supposed to attack your opponent. You're supposed to attack the
Their
opponent's
argument.
position.
Yes. Ah,
If
right.
you
Yeah. Yeah.
attack if you attack the opponent, then he will get unhappy and angry, and he will have feelings and emotions about being attacked, and now he will respond to the attack rather than responding with his uh, debate points.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so that's why it's a rule. You can see that carried to an absolute extreme in hilarity with WWE when the fighters are getting up and trash mouthing each other, and they know it's all a game, that the audience gets all worked up.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so this is an important point to recognize that whenever you've got bad feelings, almost inevitable, it was because you gave yourself an unwholesome thought. And when
Right.
you
Right.
stop giving
That's
yourself
brilliant. That's
unwholesome
brilliant.
thoughts, start giving yourself wholesome thoughts, then you'll feel a lot better.
Yeah. Sometimes I notice only the feeling and not the thought that caused it. So that's really gonna
That's
put me in a
due to
position
being
to make
slow.
sure to notice the cause. Yeah. Make sure I'm noticing the cause that caused it. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that'll be very helpful. Start to really get awareness over those, what's actually causing the unwholesome states.
Right, we have
Brilliant.
to wake up. That's part of sati, is how fast can we see these mind moments. A mind
Mm.
moment itself
Yeah.
lasts
Yeah.
only about a tenth of a second.
Wow. That's very quick.
A lot of stuff can happen in a tenth of a second, chemical, electrical, or wise. I mean, internet's a whole lot faster.
Fair enough. Fair enough, I suppose. Um,
Light's a whole
so
lot faster.
mm,
So
there's
I
a lot.
stopped you in the middle of your question because it's good to get our terminology straightened
Oh,
out.
absolutely, really, really important. Yeah, that's a lot of the research I've been doing lately has just been looking at. I actually opened like 10 tabs at the top of my computer, and I was just basically looking at the different Buddhist words and what they meant because different places had different definitions. One of the things I got really into researching was the different jhanas because I wanted to understand what the features were of each one, so that I could know like where I am when I'm in the jhana, right? But you know that there was loads of different maps and different people seem to have like different features. For example, Michael Taft said he feels a lot of pleasure in his mouth in a second jhana. I get loads of physiological sensations in the mouth in the second jhana, but some of my other friends I've spoken to, they don't get mouth phenomena sort of in the second jhana. So that was really interesting. But yeah, even with just like all these Buddhist words, there's like tons of different definitions, and it's tricky because like the way I sort of see it is like the definition of the word is like a pointer, and you have to kind of like bounce your mind off the pointer to like do the technique properly. And so it's sort of like I want to get really clear actually on the definitions of things, and this might be better to ask you today than what I was going to ask during this call, just so because like you said, like get it out of the way first of all, so that like I know like what the word's supposed to mean and point me towards.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like with all these different translations and stuff, and there's this whole thing I keep seeing coming up about scholars translating it one way, and then like actual meditators translating it differently.
One of the things that we fail to note, and I found it has to do with the way that Western education works. An example that we're talking about is that there's a whole lot of stuff that's been happening for many, many centuries in Asia that the Western mind has no clue about in
Mm,
general.
mm,
And that when they did the original research for the Pali, Riles Davies was in Sri Lanka, I.B. Honer was both in India and Sri Lanka, and they went after the original text and they did their research as best they could with the tools that they had and came up with a lexicon and beginning a translation. This happened between 1880 and about 1920 or so. And by 1920, they had the Polytext Society. But these guys that did that translation, they were scholars from England. They did not speak either the local languages, nor did they consult much of the local people and the translations. That what they failed to understand was is that the Pali text that they had come across had already been translated into Sri Lankan. They would have done a much better job if they had translated the sutras out of Sri Lankan into English rather than translating them out of
mm,
the Pali into the English, because the
mm.
Pali for them was a dead language. They had to invent everything. Okay. To go further, they could have also consulted the Thai versions and the Burmese versions and the Vietnamese versions, et cetera, but they didn't do any of that.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the Western mentality about the suttas is fairly stilted. And that it's stilted in the mindset of the translators. The translators actually add more of themselves to the translation than they do the original text. When you're reading a translation, you're reading the translator, his mind.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah,
And
especially even if he's a meditator, he might put his own like experience. He might say, "This is the way it is because that was my experience of it." But maybe the Buddha's experience was something completely else, and he's talking about something else. And it's like one of the things that questions that I've just been racking my mind with is like, what's the difference between like enlightenment, insight, and like jhana absorption? Because I know they're not the same thing. Everyone says they're not the same thing, but fourth jhana, like
jhana
equanimity,
is not
feels
an
like
absorption.
it feels
Fourth
like
jhana
enlightenment.
is not something that's a goal.
Maybe.
Fourth jhana is being in first jhana, paying attention to the right stuff.
Well, see, that's the thing. That's the thing.
Okay.
But
That
the way it's
Western
described, it's like
mentality
identical.
has jhana as first jhana is marvelous, but second jhana is a whole lot better. Third jhana is really tremendous, a whole lot better, but none of them have anything to do with what really fourth jhana is all about. And this is not true at all.
Thank you for pointing that out. That was actually my mindset. And it's been shifting a little bit because I've been focusing on coming into the now. But a lot of the times I get this like really, I'm getting kind of distracted now, but it's true. A lot of the times I do fall into that mindset and I see me using the gladdening the mind technique that you taught me to actually support that framework in like a really subtle way. But no, that's great. That's really good that I need to keep that in check and that you brought that up. The way you described it's exactly how I was thinking about it. And I think I was starting to realize it, which is probably a good sign. Great. So what is the difference then between jhanas and insight?
Well, let's use an analogy to get started with this. A child who is in the parking lot learning to drive his car is thinking about being a Formula One racer. But if he takes that old jalopy that he's learning to drive out on the Formula race course, he's probably going to kill somebody.
Yes. No, true.
Okay. Because he doesn't have the skills developed.
Yeah.
That in fact, one way of understanding it is that jhana states are states of the human mind. And that every mind is capable of these states. And because of that, every one of us from time to time goes into these various states. This is an important point, okay? That first jhana was discovered. Second jhana is discovered. These are discoveries that are made, not attainments. The Western mindset is all about attainments. Getting this and getting that, getting stream entry, getting jhana, getting nirvana, getting enlightened, getting, because our entire society is based upon getting. Except the definition of dukkha is very, very specific. The Buddha is more than specific, that wanting something you don't have is dukkha. And so most of the jhanas that guys get is actually just a form of dukkha. Because they're wanting something.
But my question then is, how will we be motivated for the spiritual path, or is motivation antithetical to?
Okay. Well, let us start then from the very beginning, rather than talking about what the end looks like, because there's no end to it.
Okay.
let's look at it from the very beginning. One sits down and wants something. They want to meditate, okay? They're already off on the wrong foot. And they will not get what they want. Many, many examples of this. One of them would be, how do you catch a black cat that in a darkened room? You've got a regular furniture with a regular room, but it's at night, all the lights are turned off. It's pitch black. You walk into the room, you see the cat from the daylight in the doorway. You close the door, and now it's you and the cat and the furniture. How are you going to catch that cat?
Close the doors.
No.
No. Run around after him. Put
That's
some food
what
out.
everybody's doing. That's your enlightenment, running around after it.
Yes, yeah.
But the right way to catch a cat is to sit out in the middle of the floor and wait, and the cat will come to you. And the longer you wait will depend upon how much chasing you did before you stop chasing.
I think I see what you're saying. I think
And
I
so
see.
if you
I'm
are
sorry, I
out there
didn't. I
chasing
know
that
this is
cat,
like,
chasing
yeah.
that cat, even when you sit down to relax, the cat's not going to come because the cat's afraid of you.
Yeah.
But if you just walk into the room and close the door and sit down, the cat will come pretty soon.
Gotcha.
This is how we
That's a
practice.
really different approach to. Wow, it's just like a very different approach to what I was doing, I guess.
Well, this
It's
is
like
the
the way
Asian approach, not the Western approach.
it's more enjoyable, I think. I think that approach is certainly more enjoyable in the short term, which is like the whole path is all
That's
now,
the
right?
whole point of it is that, yes, that's what the jhanas are. Sukha and piti are very enjoyable feelings. That in fact, one of the ways of saying it, and I've said it before so many times, we spend our whole lives talking ourselves into feeling bad, and sitting down for meditation is just another example of talking ourselves into feeling bad. Now it's time to talk yourself into feeling good. So the question is, what is feeling good like? How would you feel if you could feel the way you wanted to feel? How would you feel if you could feel the way you wanted to feel?
That's a very, 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 very good question. I was feeling a little bit good until you said that. And then I was thinking, oh, what if I could feel some other way? But now that I am thinking about that, probably like an orgasm. Good feeling, right?
Yeah, but you can't stay in orgasm. I mean, if you kept jerking
Well,
off,
yeah.
it'd paint the wall with cum, and not only that, but you'd be really depleted.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. You'd probably be depressed for like a week after that, like no serotonin left.
mm-hmm.
Right.
Let's leave
I guess
that
just
aside
peace.
because that's an activity, an event. That's not a feeling.
Right,
And not only that, but not everyone who has an orgasm feels exactly the same way. Immediately after orgasm, most 14-year-old boys feel immensely guilty.
Yeah.
That's not a feeling that you're saying that you want to have.
No, not at
So
all.
it's got nothing to do with orgasm. It has to do with how do you feel.
I mean, the way I feel now is pretty good, but I just meditated, so a lot of the bliss is like got its momentum.
Pretty good is how people do on a
saturated.
test, and they make a C- or a D+. That's pretty good.
Thanks. Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay. So, what you're actually telling me is that you don't even know how you want to feel. You never thought about it.
Yeah. No, I honestly, I don't even know.
You have spent so much time being controlled by your feelings that in fact you think that you are not capable of feeling the way you want to feel, that you're only capable of feeling what the environment demands that you feel. And guess what? The actual environment you're in doesn't demand anything of you. It's just there it is.
Yeah, inanimate, yeah.
But we bring in a lot of expectations, and those expectations normally we learned as a child when we were too ignorant to figure out things for ourselves. And then as an adult, we never do reevaluate all that stuff that we had learned ignorantly to check to see if it's worth having or not. We just keep doing it because that's the easy way to do it. Sort of like on automatic pilot. That once you learn how to drive a car, or once people in America generally learn how to drive a car, after that, most of their driving moments, moment by moment, almost all of those moments are spent absent-mindedly, not really watching the road intensely, like as if they were a Formula 2 race car driver. Formula 2 race car driver is watching the track. If he's not, he's dead before the end of the race. Guess what? A lot of high-grade fatalities out there on the roads in the United States because people are not watching where they're going. We rely upon authorities and rules and regulations and that kind of stuff to save us. An example of that is the law of right-of-way. We have the idea that we have a right-of-way. So I can plow into the guy who's backing into the out onto the road from his driveway. It's okay for me to go ahead and hit him because I'm right. I've got the right-of-way.
Yeah.
Okay. In Thailand, they have another kind of mentality, and the mentality they have here is share the road, which means if somebody does back out and you hit him, it's your fault as well as his, and you will suffer as well as he does. Everybody is in the business of avoiding accidents. Where in America, people are not in the business of avoiding accidents because they've got insurance. In Thailand, the only insurance that actually exists is insurance that you have to take out from the bank if you have a loan on the car. But if you own the car outright, there's no reason to have any insurance. You intend to drive safely. And you watch where you're going so you don't have accidents. So you are now your own insurance policy. Well, if we can take that analogy for the driving, we can take that also an analogy for all of our life. You see, one of the main mistakes that Westerners make is they think that meditation is squatting on the floor in a meditation hall or someplace. No, let's not even use the word meditation because everybody already knows what that word means. And let's start talking in the sense of Anapanasati practice. Because
that's great.
Practice,
yeah, give us a really clear definition.
Right, because we need to practice any time that we need to practice. All right, and when do we practice? Okay, so one time that we need to practice would be driving an automobile. That's the time to really pay attention, to be alert, to know what's going on, to watch what's going on. All right. And also when you're not driving, but you're just sitting alone by yourself, you still need to watch where your mind is going. So that you don't have unwholesome thoughts that wind up in unwholesome feelings. Now, the surprise is that people who are actually sitting for what they're calling meditation will wind up in a state of anxiety. Why? Because they wanted something.
Yeah, they wanted to have that happy thought-free state or wholesome thought state, and then they want it, so they get in their own way.
Thoughts are thoughts of wanting.
Yes, yeah. They get in their own way, yeah.
Okay. So, Anapanasati, the sutta itself, as well as other things, the Buddha would indicate that wanting that kind of stuff is an unwholesome thought and prevents us from getting it. That there is such a thing as a wholesome thought, and the wholesome thoughts almost always have to do with satisfaction, success, joy.
Desirelessness instead of desire.
Right. So you feel like that you've already, or you talk to yourself as if you've already gotten the benefit, as opposed to wanting the benefit that you don't have. That the benefit that you've gotten from meditation already right now is good enough. Thank you very much. Let's have some gratitude and some
Yay,
generosity
we did
going
it.
here. That's exactly what we're talking about. In fact, this is that sensation is called piti.
Yeah.
It's exhilarating. It is on top of your game. It is a winner's attitude, and it is exactly opposite from being a victim, which is where we all start. Victims are someone is a person who wants something that they don't have, and so they're out trying to get it. They're either getting revenge, or they're getting a chick magnet, or they're getting something because they want something. But that's the victim. A winner has just won. He's the champion. He just won his prize. He doesn't want anything now. He's too busy enjoying the fact that he just got his prize.
Right on. Okay, this is very, very important. This is my next question. Because this is something that I get totally hung up on, especially when I'm comparing your teaching to the pragmatic Dharma teachings, which was sort of the, not like lineage, but I guess
When the
like it was a
pragmatic
school that I
Dhamma
practiced
teachings
before
find
I
out what they
started
need to
practicing Latin.
do, they will teach according to the teachings of the Buddha rather than according to, let us say, street life in Seattle.
Right. But
Right now,
so
the Dhamma group is practicing street life in Seattle, and they're calling that meditation.
yeah. Yeah. So my question is that the entire path, just feeling good now? Do I feel good now and then investigate how reality is impermanent or how there's no self, or do I just like feel good now, and if I want those I let go of that because it's an unwholesome thought and return to feeling good now? Do you know what I mean? Like should I still be doing
Perhaps,
like
but you're
the
still
like
goal
insight
oriented.
vipassana?
You're still goal oriented.
Oh, that's true, that's true.
Okay.
Yeah, that
So
was
another way of looking at it, instead of, well, now that I've got it, what do I do? The
yeah.
answer is just to look, do you have it right now? And if not, get it right now.
Oh, wow, that is a very present moment T answer. Yeah.
Okay. This is why we
Yeah.
need to wake up and investigate. This is what sati and
Oh,
right view are all about. We're talking about 100%. We're talking about the Eightfold Noble Path is the method that the Buddha taught. If
okay.
what you're practicing is not the Eightfold Noble Path, then it is not what the Buddha taught.
I see. I see. Okay. Let me pose this a bit differently. In the interest of establishing good causes now that will save me and others dukkha later down the road, but we're thinking like a really long-term thing, is does all the investigation that needs to happen, all the skills that need to be built in the mind, are they all built just in the practice that you're teaching, the Eightfold Noble Path of just be happy now? Because I can do that. I can gladden the mind quite quickly, but and then keep, of course, I mean that's just the first out of the
And
the
then you
dukkha into
still
sort of
want
first.
something,
Well, then I just keep like
and you're
releasing
looking
and
at it
releasing,
as
releasing. It's the
permanent.
Vitakka and
Okay.
Vikara, right?
So the
Is
teachings of the Buddha, in fact, do you know the name that the Buddha gave himself and referred to himself?
the awakened one? I heard someone say
No,
that.
that's the word Bodhi. That's Bodhi. That
Okay.
came
Oh,
years
sorry.
or centuries later. But in fact, for quite a while, he was known as Sakyamuni in general. I'm questioning, how did he refer to himself?
I have no idea. Sorry.
He referred to himself as Tatata or Tathagata.
Right. Yes. Yes. I have heard you say that in another episode.
Yes, Tathagata means the one who has come to being in the present moment.
Okay.
Okay, which is always the now. That's all we have is right now. No need to worry about the future, which is what you're doing.
Oh shit. Oh. I'm sorry for swearing. I know it's recorded. Wow. That's so true. It's like every like motivate. It's because I do this thing, right? I have like this line that I draw that I call like in my head I'll just call it like, let's say 50% happiness, and then if I go over it I can still have desires, but it feels like there's like not really so much dukkha there as there was before. Like it's not really like most of my experience. And then even if I'm spending hours and hours in that state, like off the cushion, just from doing this practice that you've taught me, but that's there's actually more degrees of subtlety that I was taking for being good things, which was like you said, being motivated. Like I often try to really use basically the same skills that I've built through meditation to try and like induce a state of motivation to make myself go for my goals. But I think what I'm learning from you now is that even that is like it's still a goal. It's still a subtle
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
wanting. Yeah,
Okay.
it's got to be
Mhm.
just totally effortless, totally relaxed, and you just
One
keep let go of just.
one of the bad translations that has grossly affected Western mentality, let us call it just in general, just a slang word, Western Buddhism.
Mm, mm,
The last thing that the Buddha said was, be your own refuge and strive diligently, except that the word striving is an English language word, and Westerners hear that word and they think that Buddhism has to do with striving.
mm,
Okay, a much better word to use would be persistent,
mm,
or even a
mm.
better word
Yeah, I get
would
what you're
be
saying.
um, energy, enthusiastic or eager.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
because
Right.
eagerness is something that we have right now.
Yeah, yeah,
Striving is something you do over a long period of time.
yeah, yeah. Striving's uncomfortable. Eager is you're enjoying it.
Well, striving already has the quality that the whole point of striving is that you're not enjoying it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And that fits in with the whole way that Western culture operates. It's called delayed gratification, and that they do it big time.
Mm, mm.
Okay, the
I mean, that's
politician will,
my like 21 years of my life was just training myself to be better at delayed gratification. That's like
mhm,
a huge part of
right.
Western culture.
So let's change the point then to the point everything that let's throw out all of Western Buddhism, all of Buddhism, all of psychology, everything, even the philosophy just goes. And we're a kind of a primitive young boy who goes up to an old man who has gotten famous because he's got wise and interesting things to say. Um, and we come up to him and say the bully did this or that or the other thing, and the old man says, just forget about it and relax. Just relax. Now that relaxation is something that we do right now. If we can do relaxation right now, what else is there to do? Just relax. That in fact what you could say is that first jhana is the skill or the art of learning how to relax instead of being uptight. So what are we doing? The first order of relaxation is to unload the heavy burdens of unwholesome thoughts. That's the major relaxation. That's the first item on the list, is being free from the hindrances. That's clearly pointed out in the sutta one by one as they occur. It's clearly pointed out in the Satipatthana Sutta. It's mentioned specifically in the Great 40, the exposition on the one's right effort is to remove unwholesome thoughts and put wholesome thoughts in the mind. That's the first thing that we do, is that
Mm,
we start
mm.
putting wholesome thoughts in the mind.
Is
And
it?
in the Anapanasati Sutta, it uses the term gladdening or brightening the mind.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first then relaxation is to throw the garbage out. That we're going to relax, but we're not going to relax in the city dump. We're going to relax in a clean environment. So the first thing we do is we clean house in the moment. And now the mind is clean. And so now
Yes,
we can
yes,
relax.
completely relate.
There are
Completely
no
relating to
goals.
that experience.
There are no future, let's just say, rewards. The whole point of relaxation is just to relax right now.
I'm just relaxing right now. That's crazy, man. That really, I've heard you say that before many times in a lot of videos, but it's just blowing my mind now for just some
Well, it
reason.
has
But
to be
that's
said
the
over and
first.
over
You said
again.
that's the first step, but my question was, is that the last step as well? And I think the answer that you've just given me very clearly is yes. That no,
Well,
that
if
no
the step
unwholesome,
after
wholesome stuff.
relaxation, you're wanting more, you just came out of your relaxation.
Exactly. So it is the
So
original
the
enlightenment.
question then is
So
how
yeah.
relaxed can you get?
Oh yes. Okay. Great. So there's something to do. Great.
Well, actually, no, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we want to stop doing so that we
Yeah,
can
that's it.
relax more.
Oh, I knew you were gonna say that. I knew you were about to say that. Yeah, that's what we don't do. Yeah.
Well, notice that
Oh,
the whole thought processing that you're using is based upon Western thought systems.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
And the whole teachings of the Buddha about relaxation is stop doing, which means basically we develop wisdom in the following way. We develop wisdom as knowledge about action so
Mm.
that we can set those actions down, set them
Mm.
aside.
Mm.
Think of it, or actually in the Anapanasati Sutta is very specifically the end goal is knowledge and deliverance. Now, what we mean by knowledge and deliverance is knowledge of activities that we can stop doing, to set the burdens down, to set the activities down, to set the doings down. That enlightenment is not an attainment. Enlightenment is enjoying the fact that you've got nothing to attain. There's
That's
no
certainly a
place.
much more tangible description than some of Rumi's poems. It's a lot more
Well,
relatable.
most of the descriptions of enlightenment come not from Buddhism at all. It comes from Western society in general, most specifically Christianity, where you have very high goals that are unattainable and all of this kind of stuff.
Mm.
That in fact, one of the hallmarks of Christianity that there's this said in many different ways and places. For instance, in Romans, um, Paul says, "Who were you to be good? Only God is good."
Mm. Mm.
Okay. And then in John, it says, accept Jesus as your Savior, and thou shalt be saved. Okay. You got to go get help. You got to go get an icon. You need a
There's something you
plastic
need that you
Jesus
don't have.
riding on
Yeah.
the dashboard of your truck in order for you to drive correctly.
Yeah.
We need help. That's the whole point about our whole society is based upon the fact that the individual child, when he is born dependent and helpless. And we stay in that mentality for our whole lives. Rather than growing out of it, I don't need help. I've got everything I need already now. Okay, I can relax finally. I've gotten all the goals. In fact, the best goals that I've gotten is because I stopped making goals. I don't have any goals. When I have a goal, that's restlessness. That's something to do. That's a place to go. That's traveling. And when you
Mm.
don't have any
Mm.
goals, when in fact you can say, well, right now I'm just going to relax because I've got no goals. The house is not on fire, so I can relax in the house. If the house is on fire, I got to get up, put the fire out, or at least get up and leave the house. But if the house is not on fire, I can just relax. So much of what we're practicing here is the art of relaxation. And when we're relaxed from having no unwholesome thoughts, so that we have one wholesome thought after another wholesome thought, which actually means that we're developing uh, through the skill of having one wholesome thought after another, we begin to feel according to the thoughts that we're having. So if we have thoughts that everything is safe, there's no dangers. So I begin to feel safe. Okay. There's no discomforts. I don't have any peas in the bed, or I don't have any nails sticking in the foot. All right. That there is no problems, there's no worries, there's nothing to do. So therefore I can just be comfortable. I can just sit here and be comfortable. Now, as an aside, many people in the West practicing meditation actually practice a kind of meditation that eventually, over a short period of time within the sitting time, makes them physically uncomfortable.
Yeah, strong determination sitting.
Right. Okay. So strong determination sitting is about what the CEO of General Motors does when they're trying to catch up with Tesla. That's strong determination.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there are some benefits and values for being able to, when the mind is completely skilled, to, let us say, test it. An example with this would be Bhikkhu Buddhadasa says that when the body is sick, that's a good time to practice. That's an opportunity for practice. Why? Because when the body is sick, the mind's not sick. I can gladden the mind and I can be happy. In fact, I can tell myself, wow, it's so nice that I'm sick, because now I really don't have to do anything. Whatever anybody wants me to do, sorry, I'm so sick.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's 100% true. Yeah.
Okay, so
Used to
first
love that in
jhana
school.
then is the first thing is to relax the mind out of all of the thoughts of wanting, caring, getting, doing, unfinished business from the past, jobs to do in the future. And for right now, have the mentality and the thoughts of no place to go and nothing to do. And the spring comes and the grass grows by itself. So allow yourself to have nothing so that we can relax. And as we relax, we begin to feel safe, secure, comfortable. And we do that, and then something new happens, and that's called satisfaction. That we come to a state that I'm satisfied with the way things are. Now, comfort and safety, security, and satisfaction are all part of the definition of the word sukha. Sukha is exactly the opposite of dukkha. What is dukkha?
Gotcha.
Dukkha is worrying about something.
Yes. And so the meditation techniques, they're aimed so that we can cultivate sukha. It's like and would you say like the sort of the seven facts of awakening? I sort of have like this visualization of it's sort of like that's sort of like it's like the ropes that are like holding up the sukha. It's like things like the facts of awakening and the skills
But
like
that's a
sati.
very Western mental way of doing it, holding it up, but ropes are there to hold it up. Actually, what we're looking at more specifically is that we are already in a hot air balloon that's ready to launch. But the reason that the basket is still on the ground is because it's got a bunch of sandbags and a bunch of ropes that are tying it to the ground. And
I
all we have to
see, I
do is
see.
let those ropes go, and we begin to
Oh,
float into
man.
the air naturally.
I love your teaching. It's very relaxing. It's so refreshing after like 3 years of like meditating my ass off and just like feeling exhausted and burnt out all the time from just like not being enlightened and wanting to be enlightened so bad. Yeah,
Yeah. So this
that's a
is
nice one.
exactly why the Zen master will say that you're already enlightened. Stop wanting anything. Just sit.
He's got the right idea, huh?
Zazen.
Yeah,
Yeah. Zazen is just sitting, which it means not trying to attain anything, because you've already got everything that you want to attain. You've already got it. You're good to go. Everything is already okay.
yeah. Great.
Now, can you do that over and over and over and over again every time you check the mind? And when do you check it? When do you remember to check it?
Right.
This
And
is why sati.
you're not going to like this next question, but this is just out of curiosity. You said earlier there's 10 mind moments a second. If I can check it 10 times a second and I get it right like every time, that's basically enlightenment, right?
No, not at all. That's just conceptual wishful thinking.
Okay, okay. I'm just, yeah, I guess you're right. It's just
Because the
theorizing.
mind doesn't work like that. It takes one mind moment to have a thought, and then the next mind moment is waking up to that thought.
Ah, yeah, right, of course. Yeah, because it would had to have happened for me to have noticed it happen. Yeah. Like,
And the noticing that it happened takes a mind moment.
and if I tried to preempt it, I'm worrying about the future, and I just lost my sukha.
Exactly. So all we need to
This has
do
given me
is
so much
keep.
clarity, honestly. Yeah, really good, really good. I was
Yeah.
watching a lot of your videos over the time because I wasn't here for like 2 weeks, but I was watching lots of your videos and stuff. It was really helpful. I took some notes to some of them. I might post it in the comments or something, but they're really really good. But it's good to talk to you because it's very different when you interact with the person. Like I can ask you the questions and you can hear like the way that my mind's phrasing it, and you can point out that the ropes, that's a very Western idea. I wouldn't learn that from like watching videos and stuff. So it's like, yeah, it's really good. Yeah, cool.
Yes, that's the problem with books. Nobody gets Dhamma out of a book. But a lot of people are Dhamma scholars because they think that the more knowledge that they have, but that's all conceptualized intellectual knowledge, rather than the kind of knowledge that we're developing here is the kind of knowledge that only is attained by seeing directly.
So yeah, it's the opposite really. It's like, yeah, you're not building anything. You're just like letting go of all the mental constructions, belief systems, and stuff.
So you can see that
yeah.
actually in many different cases.
I can feel that happening with my thoughts, even like a little bit. Like if I'm like really mindful, I can sort of feel like when I'm thinking a thought, even though I'll still be doing it, I can sort of feel how like, especially with doubt, I get this with doubt. Like I've always had like loads of doubt in my meditation, especially like doubt about like metaphysical questions and these like kind of crazy things, right? And I get like doubt, and like since like becoming a bit more like mindful more frequently and stuff, like it's like sometimes when I'm doubting things, it's almost like that like sati, that skill of sati has like developed now, where I'm sort of just like this background like observer, observing how me doubting these two things, and I'm literally like aware while it's happening that I don't know the answer, and that it's just like needless tension happening, and I'll just keep watching it, and it'll just build to a point, and then it's eventually like sort of snap, and I'll return to sukha. But that's like
there's a difference between not knowing
sort of,
and wanting to know.
yeah.
Doubt is confusion, and we don't like the feeling of confusion, so we're trying to get rid of the feeling of confusion, and so we want to get rid of the confusion. By wanting to get rid of confusion,
Well,
that
yeah, I'm
means
getting like
that,
more and more stressed out because I don't know the answer, even though like I know in the back of my mind I can see it. Well, clearly I don't know the answer because I'm getting more and more stressed out, and it's like,
well, guess what? You don't need the answer.
yeah,
The answer is you don't need an answer.
yeah.
This is why, of the 10 fetters, ignorance is the highest and last on the list, as well as the very basic one. So you start in Paticca Samuppada with ignorance, but when you practiced the entire path through the higher fetters, we're still dealing with ignorance. But now we're dealing with ignorance in a very, very sophisticated way.
It's like a more subtle level. It's like more difficult to see, but
I wouldn't
it's like,
do it like
say
that. Just listen for a
initially.
second.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna listen.
Just listen for a
Sorry.
second. That the knowledge and the deliverance is to being able to see what the mind is doing right now, and then stop doing it, to set it down, to put it aside. That's the whole path, and that happens in any particular moment in the here now. That's the whole point, is that can you just do this one after another, or come back to that state of relaxation, which means giving up on asking questions. I don't need to know the answer to that. I've got all the answers that I need. What answers do I need? Just relax. Just relax and take a look. Just keep investigating and keep investigating rather than going into mental conceptualizations that lead to doubt.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there's another way that we can look at it, and that is that when instead of, we're not talking about intellectual knowledge, because that's basically where the Western mind has gotten, but not in all cases. Let's talk about in psychology, or most specifically, the one that's really easy is chemistry. If you take a course in chemistry in high school, that class is not just sitting in the classroom watching the guy draw diagrams of atoms on the blackboard. No, real chemistry is done in a chemistry lab. You take what you've learned into the from the course and you go into the chemistry lab, and that's where you do it. All right. The same thing is with psychology, that you can sit in psychology lab, in a psychology class and read a lot of books on psychotherapy and whatnot. But really, it's in the lab. It's when you have a group of psychologists actually doing group therapy for themselves, where that psychology student is getting something out of it right then and there. Okay, so that's another example of it. You can read all the books you want to about, for instance, tennis, but you'll never learn to play tennis by reading books about tennis.
Yeah.
You'll never learn to play golf by reading books on golf. You'll never learn the Dhamma by reading books about the Dhamma. Sorry about that.
No, that's
the way to learn the Dhamma is by reading your mind. That's the only book. When people would say, well, what book should I read? The one between your ears. And what do you read? What passage you read? Whatever book page it's open to and whatever thoughts are there right now. That's what we begin to pay attention to. And if it's unwholesome, we throw that out or we change the page. And changing the mind is as easy as changing the page, flipping a page on a book.
See,
it's that easy.
The trouble is, it feels like it's a really obvious thing to do, and it feels really intuitive and natural to do. So, I mean, I'm sure I'll find a way to come up with some questions, but
you don't have to have any questions.
It's
There's
like
no need to have questions. You have been told your whole life that you're supposed to have a lot of questions. The best students have questions. You're not trying to be the best student anymore. Right now, you're trying to relax and stop being the best of anything because you're just satisfied with the way things are. No challenges. No attainments. No place to go. Nothing to do. Just sit down and relax and enjoy your life.
And it's like, I can't ask you questions about it really, because the thing itself is kind of like, it's like you said, you don't get it from a book. You have to actually do the thing. So.
Mm-hmm. You don't learn carpentry from a book. You got to put a hammer in your hand and start driving nails and hit your thumb and a few things like that. And that's how, I mean, the book can have a passage in there. When you're hammering with nails, please do not hit your thumb. That's not going to help you at all. But if you hit your thumb, after that, you're more careful with the nails.
Yeah. It's like the teachings is like the warnings, and then when you actually figure out like what it's pointing to, then you don't really need the warnings anymore, because now you can just wake up. So as supposed to speak, it's sort of like a new agey way of phrasing it, but you kind of like it. It's kind of like you wake up. It's kind of like you snap out a little bit. It's like, oh, Dukkha, get out of here.
Exactly. Okay. So let's continue on with the understanding about the relaxation, because Jhana
Mm,
is just
mm,
going from one state of relaxation to another, but you've got to get yourself into a state of relaxation, which means you've got to stop doing all kinds of stuff. Mostly the thoughts are
mm,
unwholesome.
mm.
Thoughts of doing, thoughts of attaining, thoughts of doubt, thoughts of this, that, and the other. And the correct kind of thoughts to have in the beginning are wholesome thoughts that have to do with gladdening the mind. So we tell ourselves everything's okay, everything is fine. Wow, isn't this a nice moment? We begin to pay attention to the here now. Generally, here now is quite safe. The room that you're in is quite safe. There are no alligators on the floor. You don't have any bats behind the curtains. There is no mafia. There is no SWAT team banging down your door. That in fact, you're safe, right? If you are safe, then you should convince yourself to feel safe rather than feeling anxious or uptight.
Mm.
But
Yeah,
you're actually in this moment safe. So let's feel safe right now. Can you actually get in touch with what it feels like to feel safe?
feels really good.
Yeah, okay. So that can be something that you'll say, all right, if I can feel the way that I want to feel, feeling safe would be a way that I would like to feel. So let's start
Mm.
working on talking ourselves into feeling safe. And when we're sitting just with no place to go and nothing to do, let us say that there's no um, articles of clothing draped on the chair that's uncomfortable. I haven't sat down on my headphones or something like that. That in
Yeah,
fact, everything is comfortable. Okay, so is comfortable a good feeling?
yeah,
Something that you would actually appreciate having? You'd rather be comfortable than uncomfortable, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you can actually talk yourself into and provide the necessary equipment for the body to feel comfortable, which may or may not have anything to do with leg postures. Leg postures are optional, but leg postures are definitely something that's big, heavy duty deal in Western Buddhism.
Mm, mm. Oh,
In
yeah,
fact, they're irrelevant. What's going on in your mind is the only thing that matters. And what matters is, do you feel comfortable? Do you feel safe? Do you feel secure? Because if you can feel safe and secure and comfortable, then the next step, which is actually quite a big leap after that, is to feel satisfied. That I don't want anything. I've got everything that I need. I don't want to get rid of anything, because anything that I would want to get rid of would be something that was taking comfort away. But since I'm already now comfortable, I don't want to try to get rid of anything. I don't want anything, and I'm not trying to rid of anything. Right now, I can be satisfied with this present moment. Just satisfied, just satisfaction. This moment's okay. The kind of thoughts that I'm having are thoughts about everything is okay and thoughts about I'm satisfied, right?
mm, mm,
If we can do this over and over and over again, we begin to develop some skills. The skill of sati, to remember, to get myself into a state of satisfaction. We're developing right noble view in the sense of the viewing, to check to see, am I satisfied or not? If I'm not, then let's talk ourselves into being satisfied. Okay, so these are three items on the Eightfold Noble Path: to wake up, to take a look, and to throw out the garbage. To wake up, take an inventory, throw out the trash over and over and over and over again. And we get really feeling good about it, that it actually feels comfortable, super comfortable, being in a room that's not trash, that our mind has got no trash in it right now. Okay, so these are three items on the Eightfold Noble Path. And over time, sometimes, well, let's not put a time frame on it because it's not important. But what happens is that something is building up. And the building up is the confidence that I can do this because I just did it, and I can do it again, and I can do it again. I can throw out what's in my mind, and I can come back and be comfortable again. This is where the next step is when we develop Sankappa, which is right noble attitude. Now, in the English language, they translate that as right thought or right intention. Right intention is problematic, and right thought is really problematic. But let's look at it from this perspective, that one's right attitude actually determines what your thoughts are going to be and how you're going to think. Two guys in let us say some sort of competition, whatever it was, and one loses and the other one wins. When they go away from that competition, when they have thoughts about the competition, they're going to give different feelings, because one has the attitude of the winner and the other one has the attitude of the loser. So our attitude will determine the kinds of thoughts at detail that we have. And so we begin to look at our attitude. How is your attitude? Do you have the attitude of a lion? Do you have the attitude of a winner? Do you have the attitude of no matter what happens that gets the mind dirty, I can, in fact, clean that dirt out?
I can feel safe, yeah.
Yeah, I can do it because I've already cleaned this room many times before. I can clean it again.
Yeah.
Imagine.
And that also, yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, and that also, even though it's something that develops a long period of time, the technique also happens in the now. It's like you switch to the, winner mindset now. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, precisely.
So,
this is it. Okay, now that winner's attitude, when it grows and develops, it goes in and develops into that feeling of wowness. The way that a football champion in the, let us say, in the title match or whatever they call it, the World Series of football or whatever, this guy makes a touchdown. As soon as he makes the touchdown, what does he do?
he goes, yeah.
Some of them spike the ball. Others will jump up and
Yeah.
down and they'll cheer. The whole crowd of the rest of the team will come and jump on him. Everybody's cheering and excited. Okay. That is the feeling that they get from having that success. They've done it. Okay.
They've done it. Yeah.
This is what we want to have. And this in the Pali word, this is the Pali word piti.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So we're just feeling like we've already done it always, not all the time, but now.
Right now. Right
Yeah,
now,
right
we have
now.
that exhilarating. We're on top of this game.
Yeah.
We've got this one. Okay.
And it energizes you as well. It makes you feel energized and motivated. I can't remember
Precisely
the
so.
Pali or
This is
Sanskrit term
where
for that.
eagerness and enthusiasm come in. And when eagerness, enthusiasm based upon success are involved, the effort is no longer so effortful.
Yeah.
That the effort has to start off as real effort because we're having the effort of taking the trash out. Now that we've taken the trash out, a little bit of pieces of hair and bone or whatnot that's found in the room, we can throw that out easy. We're not having to take it up and carrying it out like this.
Yeah.
We can take it out like this.
Yeah. It's just little bits.
Just a little
Wonderful.
bit. Okay, so,
Wonderful.
and this is why in the 7 factors of enlightenment, the Eightfold Noble Path operates the way that it does, in the sense that now the third item on the list, one's right effort, actually now becomes energetic, that the spring is operating now or whatever, so that as soon as the mindfulness comes, that deep breath and the, oh gosh, I don't have to think about that, just comes right in the next mind moment. Wow, I'm so glad I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why it's called energy now. Unremitting energy means that it takes very little effort. And then the next item on the 7 factors of enlightenment is piti sukha. Often there's only leaves the first part of it out, or the first part, but it's actually in the Pali is piti sukha. It's a combination of the two. And so we develop those as skills so that we can have piti and sukha and feel like a champion and feel like a winner no matter what's going down. If we can remember to.
I had a question. I forgot what it was. Sorry.
Okay. So as piti and sukha develop with wholesome thoughts, we begin to see that one wholesome thought after another wholesome thought after another wholesome thought is the way to go, but even that takes a bit of work. But in fact, we begin to experience how good we feel by experiencing how good we feel rather than by talking to ourselves about how good we feel. And so various mind moments now are paying much more attention to how good we feel, the piti and the sukha, and not paying so much attention to those applied and sustained thoughts, one wholesome thought after another. Then in fact, we begin to put some gaps in it. And now we're paying attention to how good we feel rather than paying attention to talking ourselves into feeling good. We actually experience the feeling good. This is the second jhana, and it's more relaxed than all of that thinking. We just, all right. But we still have all of this piti, all of this wow feeling. That begins to be too much also. And so the next thing to do is even relax out of that into just a state of sukha. And that's now the third jhana.
It's getting more and more refined. Yeah.
More relaxed.
Relaxed. Yeah. Yeah.
More relaxed. First, we relax by throwing the unwholesome thoughts out and getting the mind into a state of piti and sukha. Then we let the thoughts go and relax into just the feelings. And then we let the feelings mellow out. All right. Now, the way that that happens is actually an important point about the first jhana is that when one is in first jhana, one has eliminated for this moment all of the unwholesome thoughts, which means that the feelings that we have are wise feelings, and they're feelings of delight, feelings of security, feelings of safety, those kind of feelings. In that regard, that means that we're not going to be spending our time paying attention to any more unwholesome thoughts because we're free from them. Okay, this is an important quality.
Yeah, there's none to pay attention to.
Yes, is that because in the Mahasi method, they teach to note whatever's there. Well, and they call it the dry insight method because that means that whatever you're noting is probably just hindrances.
Yeah, yeah.
And so they get very, very skilled in two skills out of the Eightfold Noble Path. They get skilled at sati to remember, and then they get skilled in investigation, but that's as far as they go. And so now they're very, very, very excellent at finding every scrap of dust, every particle, every old box, every pile of crap, every dukkha in that room. They can see it. And so the skilled meditator winds up living in his own garbage dump. The skilled meditator winds up living in his own garbage dump because he's not practicing correctly. This is the Mahasi method, not from Mahasi Sayadaw's method, but the Mahasi method that is known in Western Buddhism.
Yeah. I've heard that when Mahasi was teaching it, he was teaching it to Burmese monks who had a lot more concentration, so that they would already. So for them, dry insight.
That's Western mentality. That's sour grapes.
No. Right, gotcha.
No, the average. Let us say the average village bumpkin who goes to ordain at the Wat has far less ability to concentrate than your average school kid in the West who's been forced into concentrating in order to get his homework done. No, the Westerners are already super skilled at concentration, and we're not using concentration here. In fact, the word samadhi does not mean concentration. It means gathering the factors together. What are the factors we're going to gather? We're going to be gathering the factor of sati, of ditti, of right view, right effort, right sankappa,
and in
also
the right balance as well. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, slow,
And
not
we're also going to
overleaping.
be
That's
developing and gathering the skill factors of the first jhana, which has to do with removal of the hindrances, piti, sukha, and applied and sustained thought.
mm,
Okay. So the first jhana then is already in a place to where whatever we're noting is going to be wholesome noting, not just noting what a good old whatever it is, the garbage, because we've already completely finished with noting garbage because we've
mm,
taken it all
mm.
out.
Yeah.
And if any new garbage comes into mind, it goes right out again. Unlikely for that to be happening too much because we've already gotten into the habit of one wholesome thought after another after another. Okay. Now, if you'll pardon, we can look at to Paticca Samuppada for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Half of the path of Paticca Samuppada is actually broken into two groups. The first half have to do with the aggregates, which has no self. There is
Mm,
no self in body. There's no self in feelings, no self in perception, no self in consciousness, no self in all of the garbage that we've carried. That pile of garbage, the Sankara, is not who we are.
mm.
But a self does eventually show up when feelings go to grasping and clinging, and then the one who is clinging is the development of the self. We could also
Yeah.
think that is the self-preservation instinct. Well, in first jhana, we've interrupted that completely so that they're no longer going to have unwise feelings. Our feelings are going to be wise. And if
Mm.
there's wise feelings, that means we're going to feel the way that we want to feel. So imagine that you're sitting in a, let us say, a cafeteria or a bar or someplace, and two of the people that you happen to know, perhaps from the same class or same group of employees that you have, and you see them loudly arguing, violently arguing, in fact, just
Mm.
gestations and taking stances and all of that kind of stuff. How do you feel?
Uh, Bad for them, afraid for myself.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And possibly you think that you've got to go do something about it by going and getting into their fight. Maybe you're going to break it up.
Not for me, but I understand the sentiment. Yeah.
Uh-huh. One of the things that I can tell you for sure that I learned as a teenager, and I have left that true for my whole life, except for one time later, and it really bit me. And that is basically if you have two dogs fighting, you do not break up that fight. If you break up a dog fight, one of those dogs is going to bite you,
Yeah.
and it may
Yeah.
be your own pet.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if two guys are there then arguing, what we can do is we can have the thought of that's not my business. I don't have to deal with that. That's not a problem.
Mm. Mm.
Then you can come
Yeah.
back and just
Yeah.
feel
It's just
comfortable
it's
and
just like what I said before with the two parts of me doubting. It's like I can step back. I can have the introspective metacognition is how I've heard it described. I think it's just the same as sati, as far as I know. That's the same thing, as far as I can tell. But it's like I just step back and I can see him and think, not my problem, and it can kind of just dissolve. Yeah,
mm,
really good analogy. Yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah,
all right. Now,
yeah, yeah.
as we are in the first jhana noting, because this is basically what we're saying is that the noting method is absolutely correct, but not in a dry method full of hindrances. But we have to get this mind into the first jhana, but now everything that we note is going to be wholesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And so one of the things that, in fact, for the very beginner, the very thing, when I say the very beginner, let us say the beginner who has established jhana,
Mm, mm,
the thing that he has to pay attention to is sustaining those thoughts into wholesome,
mm, mm.
because it's quite natural for the next random thought to be unwholesome. So we
Yeah, and I
have to
got.
train the mind into sustaining these wholesome thoughts, one after another, which now what does that mean? What are we noting? We're noting sustaining wholesome thoughts. We're
Mm,
noting that I'm applying to wholesome thoughts. This is actually in the sutras. What does Sariputta note? He notes applied and sustained thought. That's what he notes.
Which one is it? Which
This
sutra?
is number 111 in the Majjhima Nikaya. The one by one as they occur. That's the one that's, let us say, the Mahasi crowd really love that sutta, but don't understand it at all.
Yeah.
Because, in fact, in the process of this, the first thing that says is that Sariputta, quite secluded from unwholesome states, secluded from sensual pleasures. Sensual pleasures means I want this. I want a cup of coffee. I want a doll. I want a car. I want to. Okay. And it's not sensual pleasures so much as sensual desires. Completely free from sensual desires and completely free from all unwholesome states. He enters and abides into the first jhana with rapture and pity, sustained by applied and sustained wholesome thoughts. Right? These are now samadhi because we've got all of the factors together. Piti, sukha, applied, sustained, and free from the hindrances, right? So now what are we going to note? We're going to be noting applied and sustained thought. We're going to be noting piti. We're going to be noting sukha. And as we note those things one by one, we drop naturally into the second and the third jhanas.
And so
it depends upon what you're noting that determines the jhana that you're in, not some sort of, I want it, I got to have it all, I've got to get that jhana.
Yeah. That's a really, really good point. That's a really, really good point.
It is all about relaxation. So when we have the mind completely wholesome, applied and sustained thought, we can put some gaps in. And as we put gaps into thinking, what do we fill those gaps with is actually the experience of feeling what we feel. To really get a load of what does being a champion feel like? How good can you feel? What kind of wow can you have? What kind of satisfaction can you generate? Okay, this is the first jhana. Okay, and these are the notings that we do in the first jhana, is noting that piti and denoting that sukha. But we also begin, as we have finished off with the applied and sustained thoughts and are really, really noting the piti, sukha, we begin to see that piti is a lot of work. I don't have to be standing on top of the trophy, hearing like this all the time. That I can say, oh, I can relax now into sukha.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's one state of relaxation after another. Okay, and it has to do with what we're paying attention to. Okay, so there's enough.
Sorry, I was just gonna say this is theory for me because I don't really experience formless jhanas at all, but it makes sense what you were saying about they're getting more relaxed, and the way I said it was refined, but it's like it gets like so relaxed that even like physical sensations are like so relaxed that they stop like occurring. I guess that's how I'm like imagining how that then leads to the formless jhanas.
So then the opeka, that kind of opeka would be relaxed sukha, which is relaxed piti.
Yeah, so it's even more distilled than sukha is now. It's just like the essence of it. The essence of sort of happiness.
So first jhana is talking yourself into feeling really good. Second jhana is feeling really good. So satisfied with the success, which melts it into the third jhana, just complete satisfaction. The third jhana then melts into just complete relaxation. They don't even have to work at being satisfied anymore. It is even a baser level than that.
Yeah, I've heard it described as indifferent feeling, or translated as indifference.
Well, that's bad translation.
Because in English we have a negative connotation of indifferent, don't we? They're not accounting for that. Yeah, relaxation has a positive connotation. It's getting us at least started on the right track.
The translations were done by people who did not know what they were translating. Okay. Here's an example on the side. Imagine that during World War II, American spies got a hold of a secret German document for nuclear weapons or something like that. And they take this secret document. Who are they going to give it to? Are they going to give it to a high school class of German students to translate?
No.
No. Are they going to get it to a language expert who
Yep.
really knows the ins and outs of the German language as well as his own native language?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's what they normally do. Guess what? They didn't get it translated by a nuclear physicist.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. What they need in order to get correct translation is they need a nuclear physicist who knows German excellently as well as English. He needs three skills in order to do the translation. And all these translators have is one skill, English. They do not have the skill of the Dhamma, and they do not have the skill of the Pali.
Do you by chance know of any translations, any copies of translations that were done by nuclear physicists that maybe they're available online or something,
Not
rather
in
than the ones
English.
that I normally
Not
not in
in
English?
English.
That's a
Not
shame.
in English. Not yet.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily the case in Thai and Burmese and Sri Lankan and Vietnamese and whatnot. No, that's English translations. Not one English translation has been done by someone who knows what they're doing, which means that if you're really going to learn the suttas, we need two things. One is that you need to pay attention to the Pali itself. And there where we have the advantage. See, many years ago, it was drudgery going through the Pali, trying to find out when everything is in Pali, trying to find the
Yeah,
passage
yeah.
that you're looking for.
God, I can imagine.
But now on the internet, on Sutra Central, we have the ability to go line by line in English so that we can find the passage we're looking for. And now we can check the Pali directly to see what's actually in the Pali.
Ah, clever, clever. Yeah.
Okay, so that's one thing. The next thing is that we still need kind of a guide. And that guidance that we need, basically, I got it from Bhikkhu Buddhadasa. That I learned how to read the sutras from him, even though when I learned how to read the sutras from him, I didn't have any sutras to read. The reading of the sutras came years later after he had died, but I already had enough to where I knew how to read them now.
Like the really core concepts and the really crucial terminology you'd already understood from him, so you could already kind of sort of triangulate what was being said.
Right. An example of that is the word nibbana. Okay, many people have a whole lot of ideas about nibbana, but Bhikkhu Buddhadasa points out in his book, or in the lecture that's turned into a book, the name of it is Nibbana for Everyone, where he's pointing out that at least once a day, and probably several times a day, every one of us will have a little nibbana moment. We'll relax. The old man comes home from the office and he sits down in his chair and he has a little nibbana moment. Didn't last but 2 or 3 or 4 mind moments, and he certainly wasn't paying attention, but he did go literally out of his mind. He stopped thinking and he relaxed. This is the practice that we're actually doing, but we're going to be doing it consciously or intentionally or with stamma sankappa of having the attitude that we're going to remember to do this and intentionally relax. So that you can begin to live your life in a relaxed way. If you could live your life in a relaxed, joyful, happy way to where you didn't want anything and you were completely satisfied, and then with living that way, moment by moment, as you remember to do that, and somebody came by and offered you a great big whoop-de-doop something or another, like enlightenment, what would you do with it?
I wouldn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah, you would. Yeah, I don't need that. I've got everything I need already.
Yeah.
So, in fact, what we can say is then that satisfaction and enlightenment are two different things. Because enlightenment is a goal for Western people to have, And when
Mm.
people are satisfied, they don't want that goal. They're already
Yeah.
satisfied. The
Yeah.
real enlightenment is not wanting anything. Or actually, enlightenment then is both the knowledge and the deliverance. Or enlightenment is after we've cut the ropes and we're floating off into space. That's the enlightenment. But the real and part of that was the doing of the enlightenment was cutting those ropes, dropping the sandbags,
Mm.
not
Is
not
sat
attaining more ropes and hanging on to ropes and not grabbing more sandbags to get some stability. No, it's dropping. Everything
dropping?
about the teaching of the Buddha has to do with getting rid of baggage, not bringing on
That's
new
that's
baggage.
so crucial. That's so crucial for me to hear. Yeah. And that's sort of been something I've been figuring out over the last 2 weeks. But it's really great to have confirmation on that, because at least it resolves one of those doubting us, even though it technically doesn't need to be resolved. Is
Well, a
satisfaction
doubt is a
desirelessness?
hindrance. When you're thinking of doubt, you're
Yes.
unsettled. You
Yep.
don't feel secure and satisfied. So when a doubt comes up, you say, "Ha, that's a doubt. Never mind. I don't have to worry about that right now. I'm too busy just enjoying the moment."
Yeah. 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 Hindrances get the boot. So this is sort of like definitions question. Um, is satisfaction desirelessness? Can we say that that's the same state, sort of?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
actual definition of satisfaction is you've just
Okay.
gotten what you wanted or you
I was.
don't want anything. I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
satisfied. Okay, so somebody comes in the house and says, "Are you hungry?" No,
Yeah.
I'm not hungry. Don't fix food. I'm
Yeah.
satisfied right now. I'm not hungry. Okay, so that's the way of beginning to think of it is that no, you're not hungry for anything.
Mm.
That I'm satisfied right now. I don't have the hots for anything. That I'm cool. That's basically we see that in the English language too. The idea of cool off, cool down, chill, baby. In the Thai language, it's Jayen, having a cool heart. That's what the Buddha is talking about for Nibbana. Nibbana is
Yeah.
just getting cool, getting satisfied, not wanting anything, not being hungry. Now, Bhikkhu Buddhadasa has another work that's called Happiness and Hunger, where he's pointing out that most of us see uh, it as being hungry and then eating and being satisfied because we got what we wanted. But there is a deeper level that we're beginning to look at, and that is that real satisfaction is not from having our hunger met, but whether that we just don't have hunger.
Mm. Mm.
Okay, that we're
Yeah.
not going through that cycle of wanting, getting, and
Yeah.
feeling satisfied. No, I just don't have to
Yeah.
play that whole route. I'm good right now. Everything is just fine right now. Everything is okay. No hunger, satisfaction, which has to do with safety and security. And as we develop, it develops into the feeling of success, into the
Mm.
feeling I can
Mm.
do this. And so then the first stage or the first step to Sotapan comes out of Sutta number 48 in the Majjhima Nikaya, the Kusabian Suta, where the first knowledge for Sotapan is the knowledge that no matter how obstructed the mind gets, he can clean his mind out and come to the present moment and see the way things really are. And he knows that. That's the knowledge. That's the knowledge of the first step of the path. And it is a factor of the path. It is supramundane. It is noble. And it is a mentality not shared by ordinary people. Ordinary people do not have the
Yeah,
firm,
you're in
solid
like the
knowledge
hamster wheel. Yeah.
that they can clean their mind out anytime they want to. That normally when an ordinary person walks into a dirty room, let us say that you've left home and you come back home and the whole room is just a big mess. Papers are on the floor and the bookcase is falling over and all of that kind of stuff. What's the first question that we normally ask?
What the hell happened?
What happened? And underneath that, who the hell happened?
Yeah, good point.
Who did this? What was the cause of this? And the
Yeah.
idea is that we want them to clean up their mess.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. That's the ordinary mind, which means I need help to clean up my mess. The first step on the noble path is that firm knowledge. Not only can
Really? Yeah.
is it my job to clean up the mess,
Only I can
but
do it.
I got short work of it.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, this is an easy thing. Easy peasy. Yeah,
Yeah.
just, and it's gone. But the ordinary mind wants help. We want a plastic Jesus. We want a savior. We want a guru. We want a teacher. We want a meditation practice method. We want this. We want that. We want all kinds of things.
Oh man, I
And
relate
that
to all
we've
of it.
actually used Western Buddhism is Western people using the teaching of the Buddha as an object of desire rather than an object of release from desire. We got everything upside down with the teaching of the Buddha. We think that getting something, attaining jhana, attaining sotapanna, attaining liberation, attaining enlightenment, attaining moksha, all of that is an attainment for the Western mind. And basically, all of that stuff is already in the room, but the room is so cluttered, you don't even know the stuff is there. If you clean house, all of the stuff that you wanted and desired and didn't have were actually already there anyway.
Nice. That's good. That's a good point.
And so we don't want anything. We want to get into a state of not wanting, satisfied.
Yeah, it's almost like it's like you sort of you don't really need like a technique, like, because the doing it itself is that's the actual thing. It's very it's sort of like a switch, isn't it? It's instant switch. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's exactly right. It's
So
that.
there's no technique for flicking a switch because it's 1 and 2, right?
The
What are you
switch
gonna do?
is
You're
in
gonna
the
build like
mind.
some whole big thing, and then that's like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's like you're just building extra steps around it. Like,
Well, there are many triggers that can be used, but the triggers often are the triggers for sati. An example of that is being around other nobles and behaving like them. So that when you start to behave the way that you ordinarily do, you've got the nobles around them around. That means that the sati for you is going to be there. Wait a minute, I've got to live a different way. Okay, so another one which is quite common, but not necessarily all that valuable, is counting beads of a mala. Whether the mala is the red mala or the one around the wrist. In fact, I have had some friends of Islam who call those things worry beads. When in fact, counting of the beads, if you're counting of the beads, you should be counting the beads instead of worrying. But they call them worry beads because they're counting the beads, but they're still worried. So the
yeah,
beads themselves and bead counting doesn't really work, but it could work as an anchor.
yeah.
We use the breath as our anchor because that's an anchor that we carry around with us all the time. All we have to do is remember to take a long, deep in breath to learn to control the breathing. That's the major part to where Western Buddhism says don't control the breathing, just watch it. Well, guess what? If we're just watching it, it gets bored very quickly and we just trot right off. Here's a clear example of that. Playing a video game, You see somebody playing the video game. You're watching them play the video game on their PC from over their shoulder. And someone walks into the room. You're the one who was watching the game is more than likely going to start paying attention to the guy who walked into the room, to where the guy who's playing the game is going to ignore the guy that walked in the room, and he's going to stay on the game, right?
Mm.
Let's look at the breath that way. That if you're there just watching the breath as it's breathing like something else or somebody else is playing the game of breathing, then you're going to be easily distracted from that breathing. But if you're breathing the way that you were playing the game, this is a long, deep in breath. This is a long, deep out breath. This is a long, deep in breath. This is a long,
We're
deep out
taking
breath.
control of it. Yeah, taking
Right?
responsibility for it.
We're taking control of it. We're playing it. And not only that, but we're learning a whole lot more from it. The guy who is watching someone else play a video game is not learning a whole lot.
Very true.
Just like the guy who's reading a Dhamma book, he's not learning a whole lot. But if you start reading his own mind, his own body, his own breathing, and start working with the Satipatthana, the body, the feeling, the mind, and the mind's objects, and that's the book that we read, and that's the book that we pay attention to, then we're going to make some progress if we're doing it correctly, which means that we wake up and remember. We don't just forget about that book and go read some other book. We continue to remember that, I'm going to be paying attention to this book, this body, this feeling system, to be here now. So there's many different ways of talking about that. An example is that whenever somebody picks up something, normally they have their mind focused on the object that they picked up. That's why they picked it up, is they wanted it. And the mind is on the object. A Dhamma dude, though, when he picks something up, he's paying attention to his fingers. He's paying attention to the way he's holding the object. That it's not the object that's the intention. The real intention is, what am I doing with my hands?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's very, much closer attention.
Right. So this is the book that we need to read when we're holding an object. We're not reading the object. We're reading the touching and the feeling and the sensations and the touch and all of that kind of stuff, to start paying attention to the body instead of the objects.
Yeah.
All right, because that we're doing in the here now. The object is just an object. It's sort of like timeless.
That's a good anchor. Like you said with the Mala, how to anchor. Well, so's like for any old non-mental sensations, I think. Yeah.
Touch sensations, the body. That in fact, that's the whole point about gathering all the students together at the same hour in the meditation hall, is because that's supposed to be an anchor for them to come in and start practicing now. But it's not a good anchor for many people.
Yeah. Well, it makes sure at least they do some practice. They didn't slack
if
off.
they can remember.
Yeah.
If they can anchor, use that breath as an anchor. And then eventually we start using the mind itself as an anchor. What am I thinking right now? What kind of thoughts do I have? So basically what we're talking about is that most people think that first jhana is something that you do on the floor in the meditation hall. No, first jhana is a state that you can get into, and when you're getting very good and very sophisticated in that state, you can stand up and start walking around.
Like the essence of the state can carry over. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, even if you're having like thoughts as well, I would think. Like that might be missing the one-pointedness factor though, and they would have the other four factors, but not the one-pointedness one. If you're having lots of thoughts, I guess.
And so we practice in seclusion, but then we perform that out in the public. Let us say that I'm doing ordinary things like getting into the car in an ordinary way and start driving the car in an ordinary way, and then I remember sati, and now I'm awake. Now everything that I do with that car, turning the wheel, and I know when I'm putting the foot on the gas, and I'm really paying attention to the body driving that car while mindfully watching where the car is going. that would be, then you can be first jhana while driving a car. Because we're paying attention to the road. And in fact, you would expect, if you were going to hire a driver to drive you around, wouldn't you want him to be well known to be a very safe, competent driver, can really work with that? Or do you want just a good old friend who's going to chat with you and do anything
and
but
just be
drive
looking over
the
his
car?
shoulder and all that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I see what you mean. Yeah, that's a good point. Man, we'd have some safe drivers if people knew how to meditate, huh?
Yeah. That in fact, safe driving is a skill to be developed, and the skill is the skill of watching where you're going. Be here now. Be with that car, not in your sandwich or on your cell phone or
accidents happen when
thinking
you're on
about what you're
autopilot.
going to do on the way to work or fussing at the kids in the back seat and all of that kind of stuff. No, when you're driving, you're driving. And there is a way of using the word concentration for that. But I don't use the word concentration because it's so easy for the student to get confused about concentration. And so
I get the wrong idea.
a much better way of talking about it is to what we call pay attention. The paying of it is one's right effort. To pay attention. Okay, so this is the paying attention is in fact paying attention to what we're doing. Paying attention to, is this thought wholesome or not? Because paying attention just whatever thought is there, or just paying attention to whatever breath is there, is not really paying any attention.
Yeah.
When we're paying attention, that means that we're making sure that that thought is wholesome, that we're making sure that that breath is relaxed and is going to help relax the body. So when we pay attention, that's right effort.
It's only one piece of the puzzle, but it's important.
It's an important part of the puzzle, right? Yeah. And when we get very good at paying attention, then we say, "Hot dog, I can pay attention."
Yeah,
I'm getting good at watching what's going on.
And then when we know we can really well, we're just like, I can pay attention. That's okay, and we're just like even more chill. I was trying to think of something. Yeah.
And so in those occasions when we're not paying attention and we see it, we can wake up, aha, I saw that.
Yes.
But most meditators, when that happens in the beginning and they say that they haven't been paying attention, do you know what they do? They say, oh no, I wasn't paying attention. All this meditation is so hard.
Yes.
And now they're back into dukkha again, full blown. Rather than saying, hot dog, I can see that.
Yeah, they forgot it's a two-step sort of method, isn't it?
And so it's gathering these factors together that is what is samadhi. And the samadhi gathers the factors together of jhana. And that first jhana, then here's an example of the way to talk about it. And that is that imagine that the only thing that we have as an intention right now is to get a violin to play one note, just one note. In order to get the violin to play one note, we have to have one string, but we have to have the bridge, we have to have the boot, we have to have the
other stuff,
we have to all the other stuff for that violin, which means then sati, right view, right effort, right attitude. That's the violin.
Yeah.
And so jhana means
and
that
then when we have all of that, then we play the note. Yeah.
Then we can add a couple of extra strings.
Yeah.
But 90% of all of that you're going to do is going to be for first jhana.
Would you say it's more like adding extra strings for the jhanas, or is it all like it's the same jhana but like deeper? Because people say that like the formless realms come from the fourth, they're like a very refined version of like the fourth jhana, like they come out of that. But and sort of my theory is that like the four form jhanas is also kind of like a refined variety of the first jhana. Like it's all just like the first like switch into sukha, into satisfaction. You know, it's like right. And I got that from doing your method, because when I'd relax and I'd relax.
Don't belong to me. Gladdening
the mind. I don't know where I got it from, but I guess the Buddha's method.
Right, it's the Buddha's method.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny because I keep thinking that I used to do a lot of self-inquiry, and there's a guy called Rupert Spira, and he has a method of self-inquiry. He calls it like the direct path. I don't know if it's like his term or I mean, because I've heard that thrown around a lot. But it's funny because I feel like your method is even more direct than that, because it's like you just do it. Like it's super direct.
Well, it
It's
is
like
direct,
yeah.
except that one of the dangers of direct investigation is they keep directly investigating and keep directly investigating, and the more they investigate, the more crap they find. But they don't do anything about it. They just wallow in all of that uncomfortable crap, but they keep investigating and digging up even more dirt.
Yeah, it's weird because it's kind of like well sometimes like just now for example it was kind of like when you said that I realized that like I was like creating like dukkha by like doing the effort of like investigating, and it was like I actually had to stop doing even that to like, so it was sort of like that it was like the the effort of investigating was becoming more of a hindrance than help, because like the other factors like the mindfulness and um the sukha and stuff that can continue without the effort, obviously, because that's the second jhana. But it was really interesting to like notice that and think, yeah. So how can I split those two in my apart in my mind, and only how do I make my technique even more refined so I can do it now without even doing the effort part, sort of just like my
No,
thought
for a while it's
process.
going to be effort. You have to pay attention. There's
Yeah, yeah.
going to be some effort involved with it. But the paying of the attention is also the change that needs to be made. That this is really change oriented. That in
Mm,
fact, the whole point about change is the reason why the Buddha was not big on, and Bhikkhu Buddhadasa is certainly not big on, the whole idea of rebirth and reincarnation.
mm,
Because the whole teaching of rebirth and reincarnation is that if you do something big, like a big no-no or a big good, then later on, it's the same person who did that will experience the results of it. In other words, you haven't changed. You're the
mm,
same person
mm,
now that you always have been, and our society teaches us that. In fact, Christianity is based upon it. It's based upon that God made you, and He made you a long time ago, and you're the same person now that you were then. And that's completely not true. That a human being goes through many, many, many stages.
mm,
That in fact, one of the things that has been common in the West that the Buddha knew about, and that is the concept of who was I in the past? What will I be in the future? Who am I now? And the Buddha says that those points are, let us say, unwise attention. That the correct wise attention is this dukkha? If it is,
yeah,
out it goes.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. And that an easy way for someone to get over asking themselves personality questions is to answer it like this: that you are the sum total of all of the malicious gossip and all the lies that you've ever been told your whole life. That's who you are. That's all you are. You're nothing more than a sum total collection of all the crap that you've been carrying around. And when you stop carrying crap around, you're not much of anything anymore. Isn't that marvelous?
Mm, mm. Yeah, well, there you go. There's the next stuff. Yeah,
And so that
yeah. It's like
personality is not
it's like
fixed.
your room analogy. Like you keep taking out all the garbage, and then you realize like there's no walls. It was just all garbage.
Yeah, it was all garbage, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we have freedom now. That's real freedom, is when we take out even the walls, because they were garbage too.
Yeah. Mm. Do
Well,
you
we've
know
been
the
going at it for a while, and the weather is back up again. We're in the monsoon season. The wind is high, and I expect for the power to go out again any moment now. So why don't we
absolutely.
go ahead and finish this
Um.
call before we lose it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I can call you again in 2 to 3 days, right? I don't have to wait 14. Lovely. All right. Speak
Yes.
to you soon.
So get yourself all happy and gushy and comfortable and everything like that, and then just relax. without wanting that to be just to step on the next step of the
Well,
path.
that's
No, that's what we
like
do now.
that's like the whole counterintuitive thing, is because it's like you can't actually do it, right? The relaxation, it's when you stop doing it, not when you're doing it. So it's kind of that's why it's so tricky. I think that's why it's so tricky. It's like you said, the whole Western mindset, because like even on like a broad big picture scale, it's like, yeah, these sort of beliefs run my life. But even on the micro, like seconds to second scale of me actually doing the technique, it's like if I'm trying to do it, well, I'm not going to do it because you're not supposed to do it. You're supposed to stop doing all the stuff that prevents it from already being, already the case. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, it was really good talking to you. Yeah.
Excellent, Robert. Okay, well, we'll talk to you soon.
Wonderful. Thank you. Speak soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.